Assalamu alaikum students, this is your teacher Muhammad Umar Khatak for the subject Project Management. This is our 20th lecture and chapter number 5. And today the topic of our discussion is pure and matrix form of project organizations. Pure project organizations. At the other end of the organizational spectrum is pure project organization. The project is separated from the rest of the parent system. It becomes a self-contained unit with its own technical staff, its own administration, tied to the parent firm by the tenuous strands of periodic progress reports and oversight. Some parent organizations prescribe administrative, financial, personnel, and control procedures in detail. Others allow the project almost total freedom within the limits of final accountability. There are examples of almost every possible intermediate position. The pure project has its unique advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are the project manager has full line authority over the project. Though the project manager must report to a senior executive in the parent organization, there is a complete workforce devoted to the project. The PM is like the CEO of a firm that is dedicated to carrying out the project. All members of the project workforce are directly responsible to the project manager. There are no functional division heads whose permission must be sought or whose advice must be heeded before making technological decisions. The project manager is truly the project director. When the project is removed from the functional divisions, the lines of communication are shortened. The entire functional structure is bypassed and the project manager communicates directly with senior corporate management. The shortened communication lines result in faster communication with fewer failures. When there are several successive projects of a similar kind, the pure project organization can maintain a more or less permanent cadre of experts who develop considerable skills in specific technologies. Indeed, the existence of such skill pools can attract customers to the parent firm. Lockheed Martin's famous Skunk Works was such a team of experts who took great pride in their ability to solve difficult engineering solutions. The group's name, taken from Lil Abner's comic strip, reflects the group's pride, irreverent attitude, and a strong sense of identity. The project team that has a strong and separate identity of its own tends to develop a high level of commitment from its members. Motivation is high and acts to foster the task orientation. Because authority is centralized, the ability to make swift decision is greatly enhanced. The entire project organization can react more rapidly to the requirements of the client and the needs of the senior management. Unity of command exists. While it is easy to overestimate the value of this particular organizational principle, there is little doubt that the quality of life for subordinate is enhanced when each subordinate has one and only one boss. Pure project organizations are structurally simple and flexible, which makes them relatively easy to understand and to implement. The organizational structure tends to support a holistic approach to the project. The problem arises when the systems approach is not used. The dangers of focusing on and optimizing the project subsystems rather than the total project are often a major cause of technical failure in the projects. While the advantages of the pure project organization make a powerful argument favoring this structure, its disadvantages are also serious. When the parent organization takes on several projects, it is common for each one to be fully staffed. This can lead to considerable duplication of efforts in every area from clerical to the most sophisticated and expensive technological support units. If a project does not require a full time personnel manager, for example, it must have one nonetheless, because personnel managers come in integers, not fractions, and staff is usually not shared across projects. In fact, the need to ensure access to technological knowledge and skills result in an attempt by the project manager to stockpile equipment and technical assistance in order to be certain that it will be available when needed. Thus, people with critical technical skills may be hired by the project when they are available rather than when they are needed. Similarly, they tend to be maintained on the project longer than needed. Just in case, disadvantages 1 and 2 combine to make this way of organizing projects very, very expensive. Removing the project from technical control by a functional department has its advantages, but it also has a serious disadvantage if the project is characterized as high technology. Though individuals engaged with projects develop considerable depth in technology of the project, they tend to fall behind in other areas of their technical expertise. The functional division is a repository of technical lore, but it is not readily accessible to the members of the pure project team. Pure project groups seem to foster inconsistency in the way in which policies and procedures are carried out. In the relatively sheltered environment of the project, administrative corner cutting is common and easily justified as a response to the client or to technical exigency. They don't understand our problems becomes an easy excuse for ignoring dicta from the headquarters. In pure project organization, the project takes on a life of its own. Team members form strong attachments to the project and to each other. A disease known as projectitis develops. A strong we they divisiveness grows, distorting the relationship between project team members and their counterparts in the project organization. Friendly rivalry may become bitter competition, and political infighting between projects is common. Another symptom of projectitis is the worry about life after the project ends. Typically, there is considerable uncertainty about what will happen when the project is completed. Will team members be laid off? Will they be assigned to a low prestige work? Will their technical skills be too rusty to be successfully integrated into other projects? Will our team, the old gang of mine, be broken up? In an attempt to couple some of the advantages of the pure project organization with some of the desirable features of the functional organization, and to avoid some of the advantages of each, the matrix organization was developed. In effect, the functional and the pure project organization represent extremes. The matrix organization is a combination of the two. It is a pure project organization overlaid on the functional divisions of the parent firm. Being a combination of pure project and functional project organizations structures, a matrix organization can take on a wide variety of specific forms. Depending on which of the two extremes, the functional or the pure project, it most resembles. The project or strong matrix most resembles the pure project organization. The functional or weak matrix most resembles the functional form of organization. Finally, the balanced matrix lies in between the other two. In practice, there is almost infinite variety of organizational forms between the extremes, and the primary difference between these forms has to do with the relative power, decision authority of the project manager and the functional manager. The impetus for the matrix organization was the fact that the firms operating in high technology areas had to integrate several functional specialists to work on a set of projects and wished to timeshare expertise between individual projects in the set. Further, the technical needs of the projects often required a systems approach. In earlier times, when a high technology project was undertaken by a firm, it would start its journey through the firm in the R&D department. Concepts and ideas would be worked out and the result passed on to the engineering department, which would sometimes rework the whole thing. This result would then be forwarded to the manufacturing, where it might be reworked once more in order to ensure that the output was manufacturable by the firm's current machinery. All of this required a great deal of time, and the emergent project might have scant resemblance to the original specification. In the meantime, another firm would be doing much the same thing on another project for the customer. These two projects might later have to be joined together, or to a third, and the combination was then expected to meet its intended function. For example, the first project might be a jet aircraft engine, the second a weapon system, and the third an airframe. The composite result rarely performed as originally conceived because the parts were not designed as a unified system. The systems approach was adopted as an alternative to the traditional method described above. This did not mean that the same firm had to manufacture everything, but it did mean that one organization had to take responsibility for the integrity of project design, to make sure that the parts were compatible and the combination would function as expected. This required the R&D, engineering, manufacturing, etc. to work closely together, and that all these work closely with the client, all the while coordinating efforts with other firms that were supplying subsystems for the project. Housing the project in a functional organization was simply too constraining. Setting it up as a pure project was workable but expensive because of the need to duplicate expensive technical talent when more than one project was involved. The matrix organization, which allows the project manager to draw temporarily on the technological expertise and assistance of all relevant functions, was a way out of the dilemma. The effectiveness of the system approach is well demonstrated by the success of Chrysler Corporation in designing and bringing to market the LH sedans. The matrix approach has its own unique advantages and disadvantages. Advantages. The project is the point of emphasis. One individual, the project manager, takes responsibility for managing the project, for bringing it on time, within cost, and to specifications. The matrix organization shares this virtue with pure project organization. Because the project organization is overlaid on the functional divisions, temporarily drawing labor and talent from them, the project has reasonable access to the entire reservoir of technology in all functional divisions. When there are several projects, the talents of the functional divisions are available to all projects, thus sharply reducing the duplication required by the pure project structure. There is less anxiety about what happens when the project is completed than is typical of the pure project organization. Even though team members tend to develop a strong attachment for the project, they also feel close to their functional home. Response to the client needs is as rapid as in the pure project case, and the matrix organization is just as flexible. Similarly, the matrix organization responds flexibly and rapidly to the demands made by those inside the parent organization. A project nested within an operating firm must adapt to the needs of the parent firm or the project will not survive. With matrix management, the project will have access to representatives from the administrative units of the parent firm. As a result, consistency with the policies, practices, and procedures of the parent firm tends to be preserved. If nothing else, this consistency with the parent firm procedures tends to foster project credibility in the administration of the parent organization, a condition that is commonly undervalued. Where there are several projects simultaneously underway, matrix organization allows a better company wide balance of resources to achieve the several different time, cost, performance targets of the individual projects. This holistic approach to the total organization needs allows projects to be staffed and scheduled in order to optimize total systems performance rather than to achieve the goals of one project at the expense of the other. While pure project and functional organization represents extremes of organizational spectrum, matrix organizations cover a wide range in between. We have differentiated between strong and weak matrices in terms of whether the functional units supplied individuals or capacity to the projects. Obviously, some functional units might furnish people and others only supply capacity. There is, therefore, a great deal of flexibility in precisely how the project is organized, all within the basic matrix structure, so that it can be adopted to a wide variety of projects and is always subject to the needs, abilities, and desires of the parent organization. The advantages occurring to the matrix structure are potent, but the disadvantages are also serious. All of the following disadvantages involve conflict between functional and project managers for the most part. The matrix organization disadvantages. In the case of functionally organized project, there is no doubt that the functional division is the focus of decision-making power. In the pure project case, it is clear that the PM is the power center of the project. With matrix organization, the power is more balanced, often the balance is fairly delicate. When doubt exists about who is in charge, the work of the project suffers. If the project is successful and highly visible, doubt about who is in charge can foster political infighting for the credit and glory. If the project is a failure, political infighting will be even more brutal to avoid blame. While the ability to balance time, cost, and performance between several projects is an advantage of the matrix organization, that ability has its dark side. The set of projects must be carefully monitored as a set. It's a tough job. Further, the movement of resources from project to project in order to satisfy the several schedules may foster political infighting among the several project managers, all of whom tend to be more interested in ensuring success for their individual projects than in helping the total system optimize organization wide goals. For strong matrices, problems associated with shutting down a project are almost as severe as those in pure project organizations. The projects having individual identities resist death. Even in the matrix organization, projectitis is still a serious disease. In matrix organized project, the project manager controls administrative decisions and the functional heads control technological decisions. The distinction is simple enough when writing about project management. But for the operating project manager, the division of authority and responsibility inherent in matrix management is complex. The ability of the project manager to negotiate anything from resources to technical assistance to delivery dates is a key contributor to project success. Success is doubtful for a project manager without strong negotiating skills. Matrix management violates the management principle of unity of command. Project workers have at least two bosses, their functional heads, and the project manager. There is no way around the split loyalties and confusion that result. Anyone who has worked under such an arrangement understands the difficulties. Those who have not done so cannot appreciate the discomforts it causes. To paraphrase Plato's comment on democracy, matrix management, it is charming form of management full of variety and disorder. This is the end of the lecture. Thank you.